Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a horror movie review and I'll be having a look at the Asylum tapes, which is also known as Greystone Park. Now this movie is a found footage film and it takes place in a haunted asylum. Now if that plot sounds familiar, it is familiar because we've seen this movie done probably about 10 times already, so no points for originality. Now what makes this film unique? Well, let's look at behind the camera first of all. Now this movie is actually written, directed and stars Sean Stone. And he's actually the son of Oliver Stone, obviously a very famous film director. Now, Oliver Stone actually has a sort of cameo at the beginning of the movie. And all the characters actually use their real first names. So I'm guessing we're supposed to believe that obviously this is genuinely Oliver Stone, you know, actually playing himself, so to speak. And the basic setup, you've kind of got this sort of family and friends at a dinner table discussing sort of ghost stories, and you know it comes up about this sort of asylum and all the sort of the ghost stories attached to it. And three out the people at this dinner table decide they're going to go and check it out for themselves and have a look around and sort of sneak in overnight and see if they can sort of see anything spooky for themselves. And of course, like I've said, stuff starts to happen. Let me talk about the positives first of all. The main positive in this film is the location shooting. So I'm not actually quite sure where it was shot. However, it actually looks like it was actually filmed in a genuinely abandoned some kind of building or something along those lines, maybe even a hospital. So the actual ambience that you kind of get from the movie, and you know the actual the look of it is very, very good, and it kind of looks very authentic. And there are actually not many, but a few quite good jump scares in here as well. Be ready to jump out of your seat there. So, but the negatives here. Now, a lot of this film is just these guys bitching at each other in the dark, and the way because it's only a handheld camera, there's an into one camera. A lot of the sort of footage is just stuff like the background dark, tables, lights. You can't really see what's going on. There's not actually a lot of on-screen horror in this movie. There never tends to be in these sort of found footage films, but this one there's barely any. You'll get most of the stuff comes from sort of sound effects and stuff like that, and kind of just people running along there's corridors, stuff like that. So it's disappointing in a way if you're expecting to sort of see a whole lot on the screen, because there's not a lot. There's a little bit, but not a lot. Talking about technical things as well. So if you're kind of obeying the found footage way of doing, you know, a movie, in theory you shouldn't have a score with it, because obviously that's more of your traditional narrative type movie. But this one does. I mean, it's not music all the time, but you kind of get that sort of spooky like piano effects and kind of a little bit of spooky music here and there, and you kind of notice it because you're not really expecting it in these sort of found footage films. The second thing is, again, it kind of breaks the mold in regards to how a found footage film should be, because it's kind of spliced with sort of stock footage. I don't know if it's meant to be that you're meant to the characters are kind of hallucinating, and we're kind of meant to see what they're hallucinating. There's a few instances where there's all of a sudden you'll kind of see, like, you know, stock footage of the hotel of the asylum and things like that. And also there's a few instances where the camera will sort of switch angles, and it shouldn't really do it. Again, it was a found footage. So for example, there's a scene where two of their other friends sort of shop, but they get sort of trapped in this room, and something's sort of happening in the room. I won't tell you what. We've got the camera sort of looking through the peephole to see what's going on, but we'll have also shots of the reactions from the other guys outside, and then we'll kind of go back to the camera looking in this kind of in the room. And you wouldn't have that obviously if you had if you were filming something, you would just obviously put it in the room and you would sort of film rather than kind of stopping it, starting it, looking in there again, if that makes sense. So again, it kind of takes you out the real, not that this is real, but the kind of the realistic vibe that these sort of found footage films try and sort of go for. So I didn't really kind of like that sort of aspect of it. I think it's trying to be a little bit arty as well. If I talk about the plot, and the plot itself is relatively straightforward, like I've said, in regards to what the basic sort of setup is. As I say, we've seen it in a whole bunch of times before. However, the kind of backstory about what's actually going on and the kind of the actual supernatural element is a little bit confusing, because you're not quite sure what's actually going on in regards to, you know, the ghosts and kind of the supernatural sort of things that are happening. You're not quite sure, you know, is it some kind of devil worship? Is there some sort of poltergeist? We kind of told a couple of named spirits, so to speak, and things like that, but we're not really sure why it is people are acting in certain ways. So I don't think, again, the kind of the storytelling aspect is fantastic with this movie. Like I said, the majority of scares are kind of more audio. You'll sort of see stuff kind of like you kind of see stuff in the background here and there, but you kind of hear some strange sort of sound effects, and that's the majority of the scares. And to be quite honest, they're not all that. If you've seen a lot of these films, they're not all that scary. There are a couple of decent jump scares where you kind of see stuff happening, and that's actually quite effective when they do that, but it honestly isn't very much. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. Now, one thing I will point out is the UK version, I thought, actually has an alternate ending, which I actually preferred. It kind of gives you a bit more of a conclusion to the kind of movie, and it actually changes a little bit what's actually sort of happened. You kind of get these sort of cloaked figures we'll kind of see in the alternate ending, which we don't so much see as much in the normal version. And also, it's suggested that one of the characters might actually be a ghost themselves. So, if you haven't, I'm not quite sure if that's on the American launch, it's on the British version. Anyway, let me know what you thought about it. I'm going to give this movie a 4 out of 10. I thought it was below average, but it does have a few redeeming features. What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.